Hi, kids, children, adults, grandparents, people of all ages. You might be a cat, you might be a dog, or anything in between, or an inanimate object. Today I'm going to talk to you about computer life cycles and life expectancies and so on and so forth. Yes, I'm actually giving you a computer tip today and not a rant or some other blab 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 thing, because I actually thought of something that I could talk about. Anyway, so so somebody would ask, okay, so how long is my computer supposed to last? Well, see, computers are funny little creatures. They're just like cars or anything else, where they're supposed to last probably for a certain length of time, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes they last a long, long time. It just depends. I would give a computer, laptop or desktop, probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 years of average life. Without major problems anyway. I'd say that if I were to choose between desktops or laptops, I'd say that desktops probably last just a bit longer than laptops do. One of the main reasons why is heat. Laptops don't have nearly as good a ventilation because they are so compact, and therefore they are susceptible to failure more likely. And plus, not only heat, but of course since they are portable, they get moved around a lot too, which isn't exactly friendly on it either. And after it gets dropped a couple of times, or run over with a car, or smashed or slammed into, or bumped into multiple times, all that stuff factors into why a laptop's life normally is a little bit shorter than a desktop's, but it shouldn't be like a laptop lasts only 6 months or something like that. It should last 3 to 5 years. As far as common failure points in desktops, the two components that probably are most likely to go out first in it are the power supply and or hard drive. One of the reasons why a hard drive fails is because, especially at least as of now, the majority of hard drives are still mechanical, meaning they have platters that spin, motor and everything, and the little read-write head and the little arm goes like that. So fast you can't probably see it move. And hard drives are very precise. I mean, you bump it real hard, it's going to have a head crash, which is bad. So yeah, hard drives, one of the common things to fail in a computer. It's one of the most likely things that would fail. Power supply would be next in line because it's what powers your computer. Unfortunately, some power supplies tragically end with blowing up in smoke and sparks and flames or pops or snaps or whatever, depending on the quality of the power supply. Generally, the higher quality power supply you have, the longer it's going to last, the more it can power, and normally the lower likelihood of it having an epic failure, such as one where it would give you a light show. But I'm not saying that the more expensive ones are not going to do that, because of course they could. It's electronical, lots of capacitors. You're going to have, and heat, which is again what can kill a power supply in a hurry, is heat. That's why you want to make sure you get a good power supply that's got good cooling in it, high quality components that aren't cheap, that aren't going to blow up when it gets to be 40 degrees Celsius or whatever. But generally those are the two most common failure points. Now when a power supply fails, it is possible that it could take out more components with it depending on how it fails. If it just no longer turns on, it probably won't destroy everything, but if it goes like that, it might take out some more parts with it. Now, I'm not saying other parts in the computer cannot fail besides those two parts. Okay? It is very possible for a motherboard to quit, a video card to quit if you have one in it, an optical drive to quit, such as CD burner, DVD burner, Blu-ray drive, whatever. Memory can fail. I mean, any part in a computer can fail, basically. And even the case itself can fail if it gets stepped on and it collapses or something. If it's a cheap case. But in general, most computers should last 3 to 5 years without any major problems before it starts having some headaches. Laptops, probably their common things. Hard drive again. Motherboard is a possibility just because of the heat buildup. And also, definitely battery. That's one of the big key things that happens to a laptop. Especially if you're one that uses your battery frequently, it may not even be 3 years before you need to replace it. But yeah, generally about 3 years or so is about all a laptop battery is going to generally be good for. Some laptops are designed to go 5 years with a nice, good enough battery, but it all depends on how you take care of it and if you keep it clean, without the dust bunnies in it. That's just it. How much you use it. If you use the goobles out of your laptop, it probably won't last as long. I'm not saying don't use it, because obviously you have it for a reason, I would hope. But, if you're going to constantly use your laptop, it might be beneficial to have a desktop too. I don't know. It's up to you. Now, as far as when should I replace my computer? There is really no right or wrong answer to that question. Some people like to replace their computers every 2 years. Others don't like to replace it until it actually quits. And other people just replace it whenever. Some people replace it like on a 3 or 4 year cycle. I mean, this is where I'm just getting at. There's really no right or wrong answer to when to get rid of a computer. Some people keep them for 10 years before they get rid of it. I am not one of those people. My machine, it's about 3 years old. Probably in another year or so, I'll replace it, but not yet. And also, the frequency of replacing your computer could also be based upon how much you pay for it. If you buy a low-end $400 Walmart special computer, likelihood is pretty high that within 2 to 3 years you're going to be replacing it. Whereas you spend, say $1,200 on your computer, you might have it 5 years before you'll want to replace it, because it'll stay up to date it'll probably be up to date for at least 3 years before it starts actually looking like it's a slower computer. So, really, there's no right or wrong answer to it. It basically is you replace it whenever you want to replace it. Obviously, if it quits and it's going to cost more than it's worth for its age to fix it, then yeah, it's time to replace it. But it's up to you. If it's not fitting your needs anymore, fine. If it doesn't run the latest stuff that you want it to run anymore, fine. If it doesn't run the latest games, replace it or upgrade it, whichever. I have a rule though. I will upgrade my computers to an extent, but once it gets to a point where you have several bottlenecks in it, bottleneck basically meaning the part that's the weakest link, once you have several weakest links, it's time to probably replace the whole kit and caboodle, because by then it's at, you have a 4-year-old computer and you throw a $250 part in it, you just will have gotten a new computer, because you don't want to sink that kind of money into that kind of a computer unless you really or attached to it or something. Or you can't afford to actually spend a couple extra $100 to build a new one or buy a new one or whatever. So yeah. Really, I mean, you know it's time to replace your computer when it will no longer run the latest operating system out there that is supported. Windows XP here in about 3 years, if my math is correct, in 3 years, Windows XP support entirely will be gone for Microsoft. No more updates, security patches, whatever will be created for it. It's done. Yes, XP will be what? 13 years old then. Or almost 13 years old. Certainly hope by then you've moved on from it. But many people and places have not moved on from it yet. Whether it's compatibility reasons or price or just refusal of change. But sorry, if you're gonna have technology, you're gonna have to learn to deal with change. It's just how it is, like it or not. So anyway, I mean, I always like to have the latest and greatest. It's how I am. I always have been. Don't see that ever going away. So when Windows 8 comes out, I'll probably buy it, even if it stinks like Vista did. I probably no opinions intended, but even if Windows 8 stinks, I'll probably get it because I got Vista, and I even deployed Vista on many computers, even though I didn't particularly care for it. Probably shouldn't have, but I did anyway. Now I have 7. I put 7 on most of the computers the day, or in this home, the day it came out. And it went smoothly. Actually, it was probably the smoothest upgrade I've ever done. It went smoother than XP's upgrades did from Windows 98 to XP or Millennium Edition to XP or whatever. Smoothest transition I've run into so far. So, there you have it. Can't believe I've rambled on for 13 minutes almost on just when to replace your computer and how long they last. But short answer, computer lasts 3 to 5 years on average. They can last less than that. They can last more than that. I've seen computers that are still 10, 15 years old with original everything in them yet. And I've seen some computers blow up in only 6 months. Hopefully, obviously, if it blows up in 6 months, there's a defect in it, or it had some tragic occurrence happen to it, such as a surge, or run over by a car, so should it be a laptop, or even if it's a desktop, if you really want to run over a desktop with a car, a fire. You get the point. Alright, so anyway, this is Nerd Ngong, and I approve this message, as I always do. And I will tell you, by the way, for the web browser wars, because I know I've discussed this before, Google Chrome works real well on a Mac, and it seems to be the only web browser or recent web browser that seems to actually work on the Mac correctly. I do not like Safari. Within 5 minutes of trying it out, it blew up on me with an Adobe issue, I think, of course, just like it always is. Firefox 4 has given me quite a bit of headaches on my Mac. Works excellent on my PC, but on my Mac, for whatever reason, it is terrible. Terrible. And I didn't have so much problems with 3.6 on my Mac. In fact, I always used Firefox on my Mac up until just recently when Firefox 4, it wouldn't handle uploading YouTube videos. And memory usage would go over a gig trying to upload a YouTube video. One of my Nerd Ngong rants. Over a gig of RAM on my 2 gig of RAM MacBook was being chomped up. It was using everything it could possibly chomp up, and it was just stalling and freezing, and I got the beloved pinwheel of death. Went Google Chrome, and it's the only one that seems to be working. And it actually fires up rather quickly. Works well. I have not tried it on my Windows PC yet, but I might at some point. But like I said, Firefox 4 works fine on my PC, just not on my Mac. So anyway, this is Nerd Long. I approve this message again, and bye-bye.